Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special, very impromptu GamerVision.
We weren't going to do
Um,
this today.
yeah, this was not the planned episode that was going to be the first episode of 2022. We had another thing that's being worked on and developed, now, but it's going to now fall after this one. This one we're going to try to get out as quickly as possible
Yeah.
because um, we thought we knew what the conversation of 2022 was going to be.
We thought it was going to be
Um,
NFTs, but we were wrong.
yeah, Microsoft said, "Hey, wait a second. We us, we're going to be the conversation piece of 2022." And you know how they did that? The internet, you've already heard about it. This is our 2 cents about it. Or, I mean, it's certainly not $70 billion worth, but
I don't have that much money.
our 2 cents. It's our 2 cents for the fact that Microsoft, you might have heard of them, small company,
Hmm.
has spent $70 billion, or very close
Very
to
close to it.
$70 billion, to acquire another small studio. You may have heard of them. They do like the Call of Duty things every year. Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, this
Um,
is insane news. This is that I could not have if I was making predictions, which we just did not that long ago. We did our prediction show. There is
was this on your bingo card?
no, there was no way this was on my bingo card because I didn't think something like this could ever happen. People talk about stuff like this sometimes, sort of, but not to this scale.
And I feel like there's somebody somewhere in the insider sphere that we talked about a couple several episodes ago that is going to say, "See,
Yeah,
I
we called
told
this.
you.
Yeah,
You're going to have to believe me for the next year or two that whatever comes out of my mouth, you just have to believe because I called it. Activision Blizzard being purchased by Microsoft. I said that. So I know that there's somebody somewhere that's going to be trying to cash in on this one. And
yeah.
whew, man,
Yeah, so I've got
um,
some of the details about the overall purchase and what exactly happened today. If you want to hear some of that stuff,
this is like Sephiroth dropping meteor on the gaming industry
uh, so
because he's mad he's not the focus,
so
the
yeah,
focal point anymore.
Microsoft just this morning was like, you know what, I'm feeling froggy today. Let's buy Activision,
Yeah,
and so they spent $68.7 billion, which is the biggest, I think, by far the biggest purchase that they have made of anything. A few years ago, back in I think 2016, they bought LinkedIn, and that was around 25 or 26 billion dollars, which was a huge number then. Um, but
chump change now.
yeah, $68.7 billion in stock and other things. This doesn't though make Microsoft. This doesn't even make Microsoft close to the largest gaming company. They in their press release today
Mhm.
they said that they after the acquisition and after it closes, they will be the third largest gaming company by in terms of revenue, not in terms of like
Yeah,
property and companies
just
that
like
are under them. This is
ownership,
money coming in the door. They are third behind Tencent and Sony.
which is, I would say, unless Sony does something, I don't see how Sony could possibly stay in front of Microsoft after a couple years because once all of I guess I don't really know exactly how they're like measuring all this stuff because like are as of like the acquisition part, is it they're not adding the Activision Blizzard money just yet because they haven't
No, because
generated the money?
no, and uh, I was looking at some numbers earlier today just to kind of see how they were figuring this. And Tencent, I think I saw it was 50 or 60 billion dollars in revenue over the last year that Tencent had. Sony was around 25 billion, and Microsoft was at three. Like they're far outpaced by the other two. Even now, the numbers that I saw for
Okay.
Activision were either 3 billion or 8 billion, depending on what source I was using. So even at the high end of that, they're still not nearly as big as Sony.
They, they
Um,
they basically with this acquisition doubled
yeah.
what they're. But
And this is just the gaming divisions. This is not Microsoft as a
you know,
whole. I'm only talking about the gaming division. So Sony gets a lot of money from electronics, TVs, you know,
movies,
all
TV
of that. The
shows,
Blu-ray
yeah,
stuff they own the Blu-ray thing, and then of course
yeah,
Microsoft gets money from PCs and Windows and all of their stuff. Um, but yeah, so Microsoft is still only the third biggest company in terms of revenue. The press release also said that upon close, we will offer as many Activision Blizzard games as we can within Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass, and PC Game Pass, both new titles and games from Activision Blizzard's incredible catalog. You knew that was going to happen, 100%.
yeah,
As soon as they can, that Activision catalog will be on Game Pass, and that will make
yeah,
that is a big reason that they're doing this. Is they're trying to drive
yeah,
people to Game Pass and make that service the service that everybody talks about, that everybody wants, and this just makes that much a sweeter deal for
yeah.
players.
I mean, easily, like, and that's one thing. You know, with business, any of the competition, if you know, if you've got companies that are fighting against each other, trying to get, you know, fighting for the consumer's dollar, and essentially, you know, if you go long enough and the battle starts to stagnate, you know, you start to see one company start pulling away. And in the gaming spheres, Sony, as it was shown, was pulling away. A very good tactic to do is to start disrupting things,
Yeah,
you know, shake up the norms. And with Game Pass, Microsoft has said, we are not going to fight you on the same battlefield that we've been fighting you for 10 or 15 years. We're changing things up and we're doing something different. And if you come along with us, that's great, whatever, competition, fine. But we're going to do something different and we're going to beat you at a different game. And with this acquisition of Activision Blizzard, that catalog of Game Pass titles has just
yeah.
skyrocketed to a point that like Sony's going to have to do something
Yeah, because you know, as
because
soon as they can, we're going to see Overwatch on Game Pass. Overwatch 2 will be on Game Pass day one. We'll get
yeah,
Diablo, Call of Duty going forward will be on Game Pass on launch day for free
yeah,
if you are a subscriber, and you will not have to
and
buy Call of Duty every year. And then you got World of Warcraft. What are they going to do
yeah,
with that? That'll probably end up on PC Game Pass somehow. They've got to work out the subscription stuff with that.
uh, StarCraft, uh, uh, yeah, and then on top of on top of like with Call of Duty, just honing in on just one of the mega pillar parts of this. Um, Sony had this exclusivity deal with
Mm-hmm.
Activision for Call of Duty content post release that PlayStation would get it first.
Yep.
That's obviously gone now. That's
Well,
that
not initially. All of those deals will obviously stay in place.
yeah,
Microsoft is not going to break those contracts, just like they did with
yeah,
Bethesda last year. They're going to honor all those contracts. So the games that were promised as Sony exclusives stayed Sony exclusives. It's just that Microsoft is going to get that money now,
yeah,
instead of Bethesda, directly. We'll probably see something very similar here happen. They have said, we're not going to make everything exclusive, right away, or we're going to do that on a deal by
yeah,
deal basis, on a game by game basis. We'll see what happens. Just like with Bethesda, though, this stuff is eventually going to go exclusive to Microsoft. You know
yeah.
it
Like
is.
like like what they confirmed, like Starfield.
Yeah. The
It's
the
like
one exception may be Call of Duty. There's a ton of players on PlayStation. Maybe Microsoft just says, you know what, fine, Call of Duty can stay multi-platform for the foreseeable future. We'll just take all that money. We're fine with that.
yeah, yeah. It's
Uh,
similar to like Minecraft. Like Minecraft's
yeah,
on everything,
yeah,
and new release stuff is
yeah.
typically on everything.
And those games will be free for Game Pass subscribers, but
Whew.
PlayStation players will have to pay the full, $70
$70,
for the game. Uh,
which is another. I like Phil Spencer right now. I feel like he's just he's got so many cards now that he can just be like, okay, well, I get to decide how successful you're going to be.
Exactly.
So,
Uh,
like, oh, you're getting a little too arrogant over there,
Stop
Sony.
that Call of
I
Duty from
think
me.
this Call of Duty exclusive. Um, oh, you were expecting Diablo? Oh, well,
No, no,
no, actually, that's exclusive.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
like
This is like
this.
huge. For this is and I don't know yet whether this is good or bad for the gaming space. I know a lot of people will be like, well, they're just going to take all these things, they're going to make them exclusive, and it's going to be bad for the players. That may be the case. I don't know. I've seen more consumer friendly stuff from Microsoft than consumer exclusionary stuff
Yeah,
from them over the last few years. Um, the thing that a lot of people are forgetting about in this deal is it's not just Activision and Blizzard. There's a third company that
yeah,
their logo is on this as well. It's Activision Blizzard King, which
yeah,
I don't know if you know, but Candy Crush makes a ton of money. Um,
a little bit.
King is not a small company. If somebody had wanted to buy them by themselves, that would be multi-billion dollars on its own. And
Which
Microsoft now owns that.
Activision did.
Yeah,
Activision bought them for billions of
and
dollars,
Activision
and
bought them specifically to put Activision Blizzard games on mobile,
yeah,
and now Microsoft will get to leverage that uh, for their titles going
and
forward.
and briefly, I'm definitely in the camp of I'm not like this is huge news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thrilled about it because I am kind of in that camp of I don't like it when Tencent does it.
Yeah,
I
don't like
you
it when
know
Sony does it. Don't like it when
yeah
anybody does it. I
like
understand the business part of it. I'm very much an anti-exclusive person.
yeah
I think the more players that can play something, the better it is. Um, but at the same time, I understand that business reason as to why you would do that, and
yeah
it,
and
it's
and
it's going to be a wait and see kind of thing. We don't know what's going to happen. This is not going to close until sometime next year, probably third quarter 2023, June, July,
yeah
somewhere around there, actually.
and for the most part like all of these companies it goes through like we go through these phases where companies are they're so pro consumer, they start turning the tide, they start gaining market share, and then they start to get either in the second place or first place, and then they become arrogant and cocky, and another company comes in, and it's just like all three, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony have all set at the top
Yeah.
or pretty close to the top of the gaming industry. And we've seen various phases of arrogant
Mm-hmm.
companies. And then the other two companies become very pro gamer, pro consumer. They start to gain traction while one of the companies, Sony, ends
Mm-hmm.
up being very arrogant and cocky. And we've seen it so often in the gaming sphere. And like my worry is that like this is huge news, and Microsoft is going to make a lot of headway
Yeah.
with this because you just can't shy away at just how many franchises Microsoft now owns. But the thing that I'm worried about is once we reach a point where Microsoft is, king of the hill again, where it's like, okay, well, now we can start, either increasing prices or we can start, converting Game Pass into something else or like my worry is that the gaming industry is over the last really since like the Wii era, we've seen the gaming industry starting to consolidate more and more and more into just a few companies that really are calling all the shots. And just based on my own personal preferences, like gaming hasn't quite been like I don't I think Fire Emblem Three Houses was the last RPG that I played that I played all the way through and enjoyed all the way through. And I feel like gaming is going to start getting to the point where it's going to become fewer and fewer and fewer and harder to find a game that is creative and fun and isn't just 500 hours to
Yeah.
complete
The
the entire game.
We're gonna
But
see more of the big studios focusing a lot on that AAA, proven thing. The creativity is going
yeah,
to come from the indie space still. The problem we're going to run into
Yeah.
is once those indies start getting really creative, the big guys are going to be like, "Hey, you know what?
Oh,
I want some
it's
of
ours.
that, and we'll take that."
Yeah.
And it's going to be a continuous cycle. It's going to
Yeah.
continue for the rest of time, really. Um, and
Um,
there's a lot of good with some of this. Like we'll probably see some people in the higher positions of some of these studios be like, okay, you know what? I really don't want to work specifically for Microsoft. I'm going to leave and I'm going to start my
yeah.
own thing. That is a thing that happens every time companies get acquired. It's just it's the nature of these creative people. Um,
Yeah.
when they feel like they're
Um,
being stifled creatively, they leave and and go do something else until they get acquired again, and and that
and
cycle
then the
just
cycle just
continues
keeps
over and
going.
over and over again.
Um, and we kind of touched up on it a little bit. We're pressed for time because this is just a topic that we've talked about some big topics in the past, but this is just nothing has ever been bigger than this.
Yeah,
Um, the rumors of Sony doing their own game streaming service. Well, now like Sony needs like whatever their next decision is. You know, they all of their Twitter stuff today was just, oh, this game's coming out,
yeah.
this game's coming out. Like they it's weird, but I don't think they were prepared for this,
Oh, I
just
don't
like
think so.
everybody else. I don't think any like so like everyone was chiming in on Twitter and social media, just saying like, what are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Like what?
This
And
is gonna put a lot of pressure on Sony to do one of two things, and that's either acquire studios of their own. We've seen a lot of people being like, "Well, who's Sony gonna buy now?" And I have my ideas
you
of who I think would make a good acquisition for Sony, um, but they're either gonna have to do that, or it's going to really put some pressure on them and force them to do something with PlayStation Now.
know,
We've heard the rumors, but
yeah,
the bigger Game Pass gets, the more pressure there's going to be on Sony to respond with something very
yeah,
similar and, go back on there. We're not putting, titles on day and date. Those will come at a later time. They may have to
yeah.
rethink that position. Um,
And and I hope that this, gets like part of me is really hoping that this really fires up the competition between Microsoft and Sony because let's face it, Sony, as somebody who is very much in the Sony camp, even though I've got all the platforms and stuff now, and I've broadened my horizons,
yeah,
whether Sony's Horizon or Forza Horizon, it's something where this is a huge hit that Sony took, and they need to do something. And they have a huge back catalog. Their portfolio is massive. They just don't like to
yeah,
utilize it in a proper way. And a lot of it, I think, stems from some of the people that they have at the top, like Jim Ryan, who he's if I was in his shoes, I would be doing absolutely everything I possibly could to cultivate the entire portfolio and bring as much of it
yeah,
forward as possible, make my hardware be super appealing. And at this point, you know, they obviously, I mean, I have no idea. At this point, I don't. They could maybe they could spend $70 billion. I don't know if they could loan it or borrow it or whatever. I At this point, I don't know
yeah.
what is possible anymore.
The
But
other,
um, but they're going to have to do something.
yeah,
And I'm hoping that they reach into their portfolio and they say, hey, we've got, you know, to be competitive, we're bringing all generations of PlayStation first party. Obviously, it would be very difficult to get all third party stuff,
mhm,
backward compatible. But like with this service that we're going to provide, it's going to bring all generations of first party Sony content to PS4, PS5,
yeah.
PC because we'll be able to play it on anything. Uh, but like I don't know, this whole thing was just so shocking, just such a huge announcement, and and also what's Nintendo going like? We're talking about
Yeah.
Sony, but like Nintendo's got to be looking at this as well and being like, oh, okay, well,
Nintendo's off in their own separate world.
Yeah,
I think they
true,
honestly
true.
don't care what is happening with Microsoft and Sony. Um, at the same time, they have to at least keep an eye on. They have to be at least keeping an eye on it.
Yeah,
And there are
because
definitely
like,
some acquisitions that they could make that would, better them. But
yeah,
what I don't think we're going to see is this rush to just acquire, acquire, acquire. I know we've seen
yeah.
some of that.
I hope not.
We're
Like,
not
I hope
we're not
not.
just going to see, okay, Microsoft has done this, now Sony's going to respond, and then Microsoft is going to respond, and then Sony's going to respond, and then Nintendo's going to be like, hey guys, we're over here. Um,
Yeah, yeah. The Smash Brothers, remember?
yeah, we will see some, but I don't. We're not going to see like this huge rush.
Yeah,
And one last thing before we leave, we have to touch on it, and that is what does this mean for the fate of Activision CEO Bobby Kotick? And
yeah. Like,
the thing is, as of right now, and they said in the press conference, nothing changes. He remains as the CEO of Activision Blizzard throughout the merger. When that ink
yeah.
dries, I think things are going to be a little different. Um,
I'm hoping so. I still I really don't like the idea that he's gonna get such a huge check out of this.
oh, he's going to. I am
But
almost certain of that. But I think once that ink dries on all the contracts and everything is finalized, Microsoft's going to say, "See you, buddy," and they're going to give him a
yeah,
giant check to go away.
because that's because shortly after the announcement, Microsoft made posts about how they're, reevaluating and looking at and really pushing for like the inclusive and, just standards and practices of, Microsoft and blah blah blah. So I I definitely this is going to be talked about for the next year, maybe 2 years. Um, but we just had to get an episode out to talk about this because this the waking up this morning and seeing people talking about Activision Blizzard being purchased for $70 billion, which I thought they were too big to be
Yeah,
purchased,
no, no.
but I was wrong. Um,
And
I'm curious to see.
I honestly think a lot of the things that have been happening with Activision the last few months are what fueled this and made it so that
Yeah,
the investors can say, okay, yeah, we will realistically what offers are out there. Microsoft said, here's a giant pile of cash, and they
yeah.
said, okay,
Let us know in the comments what you all think about
absolutely. I'd love to see what other people say.
this and just what Sony could possibly do to counter. I know some people talk about Square Enix, which I thought anyway. That's a whole other
Yeah, we've
conversation.
been talking for 20 minutes, and there is still
Yeah,
a ton of stuff that we could continue talking about. We could spend hours on this
yeah,
topic
like
and not cover
prototype.
everything that needs to be covered. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely let us know what you think of this, what you want to see from this going forward. Um,
yeah. And we'll see you with the next episode of GamerVision right here on the YouTubes. And well, let's see what tomorrow brings.
bye, everybody.